Hi, my name is Akshaya. I'm a nature and animal communicator and a tarot card reader from India, and now I integrate both these modalities to help me connect better with nature and animals around me. In the last video, we discussed some ground rules that I follow for animal communication. Similarly, in this video, I'm going to discuss some ground rules that I follow for my tarot card reading. Again, tarot card reading is a personal practice, so everyone will have their different ways of doing it. I look at tarot cards more as a guidance tool rather than a prediction tool, so I share a very personal relationship with my cards. In fact, I've been using the same card since 2010, I believe, 2010, 2011. So it's been almost 14-15 years that I have this personal relationship with my cards, and my cards have also grown with me. They've become wiser and made me wiser as well. And I stick to those cards. So that's in fact one of the rules that I follow, that when I begin a reading, I will stick to my original tarot cards because that's where I feel I have the strongest connection. Sometimes I may be drawn to use a different deck. I have a couple, not many, but I have a few. So if I feel very drawn to use a certain kind of deck for a certain kind of reading, I do. But more or less, I always stick to my original Rider-Waite deck that I've been using for years and years. So that's one, that I have a personal connection with the cards, and hence it's easier for me to connect with those cards. The second rule that I follow is I get all the information from the human and stick to what they have asked. I avoid divulging into things that they have not asked, or I avoid asking questions that may be something the human does not want to discuss. There are times when you feel drawn to it. However, ethically, it's really important for us to ensure that we stick to answering the questions the humans ask rather than adding on to it. Of course, if it is related to a certain question and there's more guidance coming through, we can. But other than that, we can't sway away from what the humans have asked. The next thing is I never do tarot card readings for someone else on the request of someone else. So if someone comes to me and says, do a reading for my sister, for my brother, for my husband, I don't do it simply because I need explicit permission from the querent. So the querent here would be the person for whom I'm doing the reading. So even if the person tells me, no, I have explicit permission, I'll ask them to, add them to the CC of the email, or ask them to reach out to me directly, because not that I don't trust people, but just it is not something that's very ethical, and therefore it's the best to avoid it, to avoid any problems in the future. Also, it's not nice that, so what if someone I know just says, go and do a reading for Akshaya, and I may or may not know about it. And if I'm not asked for it, the guidance is not going to really be helpful, because no matter how good the guidance is, if I'm not open to it, if I'm not asked for it, there is no reason for me to accept it either. So having explicit permission from the person who you're doing the readings for, from the querent, is very important. Even if you're doing tarot card readings for animals, explicit permission from the human of the companion animal is very important. Of course, if you're doing it for wild animals, if you're doing for free animals, if you're doing it for community animals, it's fine. Then in that case, I would still recommend explicit permission directly from the animal. But if you're using it as a tool for communication with animals, with companion animals, then explicit permission from the human of the companion animal is highly, highly recommended. Another thing that I generally follow with my tarot cards is I keep them in a clean place. I avoid keeping them cluttered. I avoid keeping them in places that could be dusty. Basically, I keep them in places I would keep my books, because they are always kept well. So, or you can keep it in a place of worship, but that's just the basic respect I would pay to my cards. I also pull out my cards in clean places. I make sure it's not dirty, it's not dusty, it's not too cluttered. That's just the relationship I have with my cards, and that's how I like to use them as well. Another thing that I follow is that I always cleanse my cards, then I charge them, and then I start with the reading with an intention. And after the reading also, I ensure that I cleanse my cards. This just helps me to keep my cards as neutral as possible without any stagnant energy, so that every time I do a reading, we start fresh, and every time the reading is over also, I cleanse them. It's just something that I really like to follow, and I do it religiously. So these are a few things that I have set for myself. These are my ground rules. You may may or may not follow them. You may have different ground rules. So if you have anything interesting to share, please do, so that we can all learn from each other. Until the next video, bye bye.